Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. Hope the audio works properly. If you have any audio problems, please let us know. So yes, again, welcome. It's 10 o'clock. Let's get started. Welcome to this webinar. Today we're going to talk about the candidate experience and how you can gain more control of your candidate experience. We appreciate it very much that you took some time out of your busy day to join us for this webinar. Your hosts for today are myself, Lex Heldens, Product Marketing Manager for Visma, and my colleague, Christer Stenfeldt. We'll do a short introduction in just a minute, but just at least you know who we are. Before we get started, some practical information for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them through the question box, the chat box. There's a question mark on the right top of your screen where you can enter a question. So also, we'll go over your questions at the end of the webinar, so we'll have some time reserved to address your questions, so feel free to ask those. All the questions and answers will be summarized in a QA document, which we'll share with you so that if we for whatever reason don't have the time to answer your question, that it will be addressed. You can be assured of that. And after the webinar, we will share the slide deck, the recording, and that QA document that I just talked about. We're really excited to join this webinar and show this webinar for you. We hope that in this next hour, we'll be able to give you some inspiration and some food for thought to think about. So what will we talk about today? Well, this introduction, that's coming. We're going to talk about the bigger picture. What is this candidate experience, candidate journey? What does that mean? The phases of the candidate journey and the touch points that you can find along the candidate journey. We're going to talk about how, in that case, you can then optimize your candidate experience. What are the possibilities there? And some practical hands-on advice about some tools that can help you on that candidate journey. All right, so nice to meet you. Once again, my name is Lex Heldens. I'm a product marketing manager for Visma Talent Solutions. I'm based in the Netherlands where it's gray and cloudy today, so hopefully on your side the weather is a little bit nicer. We're quite an international bunch at Visma Talent Solutions, colleagues from all different countries. I myself have been in the product marketing role for about 2 years now, and prior to that, I was a consultant, so I did a lot of implementations for various ATS systems. I did about 70 plus implementations, different countries, different companies. So I've seen a lot of different ways that you can work on your candidate journey. So that's all about me. Christer, how about you?
Yes, hello, my name is Christer, and I'm the competence manager within Visma Talent Solutions. I would more or less like to say thank you, Lex, because you described my role quite nice too. We are quite similar in our roles. I'm working as a competence manager based in the south part of Sweden. Here it is sunny and blue skies for the moment, so that's nice. My role is all about the internal documentation, trainings, and so on within our recruitment tools. I have a similar background as Lex. I worked as a consultant back in the days, implementing EasyCruit not only in Scandinavia, also in Azerbaijan, Spain, France, the Baltic countries, and so on. So we have a quite similar background, me and Lex. So that's all about me.
All right, thanks, Christer. All right, so where were we? Let's have a look at that bigger picture, shall we? I found this quote on the internet where you can find a lot of things. This quote is by Jackie McGuire, and she's the head of talent at Headway. She says, "There's no secret formula to a successful candidate experience, but with some intention, the benefits speak for themselves. An integrated approach to the candidate journey can improve an organization's brand, attract better quality hires, and increase return on investment." And I thought it was a really nice quote because that's basically what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that whatever actions we do along this candidate journey all work together, they're all integrated. So we have one generic approach. But if you look at the bigger picture here on the screen, you'll see some words that you'll see a lot appearing on blogs and articles and videos, etc. Employer branding, onboarding, candidate experience, candidate journey, pre-boarding, all very popular items that you see coming by. But what is the common one with these words? What is the most important one? If you look at the bigger picture, it all basically starts with this whole employer brand. Who am I as an employer, and what do I want to share the world who I am? What should that look like? So if you look a little bit further at that, that basically all comes down to the employee value proposition. So basically this describes your employer brand in an attractive way. So what does this mean? On the left side, you can see what your talent wants. So what are candidates looking for in an employer? And on the right side, you can see what you as an employer want or what you have to offer. And right there in the middle lies the sweet spot. So we're trying to find ways that we can make sure that we tell the world what we want and that it's picked up by people that agree with that are looking for the same things that we have to offer. In that way, in the middle there is our sweet spot. That's our EVP. So all these terms that I just showed you on the previous screen, they're all intertwined. So it's very important to have a good approach to that. And this is basically really what we're doing all this for. So this general approach specified out in the employer brand, in your candidate journey, it's all aimed towards finding that one right candidate that we're looking for. Just that one right candidate. To drill down to that, that's basically where we get into this candidate journey part. So let's have a look at that. First of all, I have a question for you. You don't have to answer yet. We'll have another question in a minute where you can answer. But this question is, how many touch points on average does a potential employee or candidate have before they actually apply for a job? What do you think? Is it 5? Is it 20? Is it 10? Well, ta-da, it's actually 16 touch points. So if you look at it that way, so there's 16 opportunities that we have before the candidate will actually start to apply for a job. So 16 opportunities where we as a company can make a difference in persuading this candidate that he or she should choose for us as a company. Now, when it comes to this whole candidate journey, I have a question to ask you. I would like to know to what extent you are in control of your candidate journey. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start a poll, which you'll see on your screen in just a minute. And if you please be so kind as to indicate where you are. So to what extent are you in control of your candidate journey? Are you in full control? So you have a completely fully mapped candidate journey? Do you think you know your candidate journey? Are you still in the discovery phase? Or do you not really don't know too much about this candidate journey? All right, so as you can see on the screen right now, it seems that 43% is still discovering their candidate journey. 30%, it is a nice percentage as well. Think they know their candidate journey, and there's 6% that's fully mapped out their candidate journey. So, well, then I have nothing news to share for you, so you can just go on with your day. No, I'm just kidding. It's all right. But it's interesting to see. So yeah, we're still in the discovery phase, trying to find what our candidate journey is about. Well, good. Stay tuned then. Let's continue and have a look at what we have next. So to visualize a candidate journey, it's a journey full with twists and turns and interactions, as you can see right here on the screen. As a candidate, I may see an employer branding video, I read something about a blog. At one point, I may even receive a job notification because I signed up for that. At one point, a candidate will start to apply, and then the selection process will start. So then interview will take place, and after that selection process, there will be a hire or no hire, and at the end, we're looking at the onboarding phase. So this is sorry about that. That's quite an interesting journey, as you would see. When I looked this visually, my eyes started to dance. So I thought, you know what, let's make it a little better visual for this candidate journey, which will look like this. It's much more calm on the screen now, isn't it? So basically, it's the same thing, but it's just in a nice funnel right here in this triangle. It's upside down. So this also kind of symbolizes the funnel that we have with our candidates. So we're starting really wide at top of the screen with the awareness phase. We're just trying to make candidates aware of our company, of our brand. Then as the phases go down, things start to funnel down and we get less and less people. And by less people, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. We get people that are hopefully interested, that are really engaging with us. All the way down to the application process, people get selected or rejected. That's also possible. And at the end of the selection process, there's the hiring phase. And then, because if you look at these models on the internet, if you Google around, you usually see 6 phases and it kind of ends at the hiring phase. However, I think it's really important that the onboarding part is just as an important part of the candidate journey as the other phase. So that's why I added a 7th step right here, which is the onboarding, because that's basically still continuing that candidate journey. Kind of like until the very first day that the candidate starts at the company. So on the left and right side of the screen, you see some remarks there. So basically the whole process from top to bottom. On the right side, that's talent acquisition. That's what we're doing. If you look on the left side, you see a little bit of the expertise is split up right here. So the first 3 phases, so the awareness phase, the consideration phase, and the interest phase, those are more recruitment marketing related phases. So there's a link with marketing right there. And really depends on the company how you have organized that. If you go a little bit further down, so when we get to the actual application process, that's really when recruitment takes over the whole process throughout the onboarding phase. So that's kind of how you can see that split. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to dive into each phase of this candidate journey and have a look at what possibilities and what touch points we have right here. So the first one is the awareness phase, and that's the phase in which your potential and unknown candidates get to know your organization. So very broad, very getting to know us on a first base. So what are the touch points that you can identify in this awareness phase? There's 3 touch points that we have found, which is the awareness advertisements, a blog post, and some job boards where candidates may encounter you as a brand. All right, let's have a look at these awareness advertisements. So these advertisements, they're not about one specific position. It happens sometimes, but they're more in general about your as a company. So you can really show off what makes you unique and what are your values. And as you can see by some of the examples, some are a little bit more serious, other ones are a little bit more quirky. Yeah, should it be serious or should it be quirky? That's really up to you, as long as it fits with your brand. If you're, for instance, a law firm, which is very formal, and then you have this very funny advertisement, there might be a mismatch about what you're sending out as a message. That's basically the red thread that goes along this whole candidate journey. Make sure that you're consistent and make sure that you showcase who you really are. So don't pretend you're something. Of course, it's good if you have some ambition, if all organizations change and you may want to implement this change, but make sure that it's realistic. So we have an example from Barclays right there. So somebody can sing really well. This is a bank, which is funny. They are really using that quirky side. So they're trying to be a little bit more of a fun, engaging employer. Then there's a advertisement from L'Oreal. Strong brands are seeking strong types. So this lady's wearing her boxing gloves, so she's a strong type for L'Oreal. I would not think about that when I think of L'Oreal, but that's an interesting part. So this is how they want to advertise their brands. To the right side, you have one from Air New Zealand. It says personality allowed daily on flights to Los Angeles. So that's also a little bit, of a quirky sense in that. So these awareness advertisements really aiming to showcase you as a company and as a brand and not necessarily as a job at this point. So the awareness advertisements, just to summarize, it informs, it targets your candidate persona. And speaking of which, candidate personas, do you know what a candidate persona is? It's basically that you've done an exercise to determine what type of candidate is our candidate. And of course, there can be multiple types because you have different positions, different areas in your company. But this candidate persona is basically an exercise that comes from the sales industry. So basically, when you do sales, they also do sales persona. So who am I selling my thing to? Who am I in touch with? That's a nice exercise you could do to just kind of sit down and write down, okay, what kind of candidates are we actually aiming for? What are we looking for? These awareness advertisements, of course, should be aligned with your employer brand so that they're telling that same and consistent story. And it should also contain your employer value proposition, what makes you unique. Like an example you see right here on the red background there is we play as a team. So I guess they find it really important that people have a team spirit. The other one from Beer, that's one they call it inspired. So it's be inspired. So they find it important that you give inspiration to others, yourself and other people. And also the awareness advertisement should have a call to action. And ironically, then at the one in the background, you don't see a call of action, but the beard one all the way at the bottom right there in the corner will say, okay, find out more, visit our website. And that will go to your recruitment page, which is another area of expertise. And Krista will tell you all about that in a minute. The next one is a blog post, also during the awareness phase. And you might be like, blog post? Why would I create a blog post? Well, you see a lot of blog posts that really talk about the jobs that are available. So in the Netherlands, you have bol.com, which is kind of like an Amazon.com online store. You can buy anything there, diapers, cameras, etc. And they continuously look for several positions, developers, salespeople, etc., etc. So on their blog, they have someone writing who is a product designer about his job. So what does he do on a day-to-day basis? What does his job look like? What does he like about it? Just to create this awareness. Same one for the example on the right bottom, the Deloitte example. Richard Rosenthal he likes that there is a take your children to work day. It would be really interesting, but that's something that he likes, and he's talking about his path that he walked at Deloitte and the opportunities he took. So again, this blog post is clearly aimed at an audience, and that again, here comes this candidate persona. So if you know what candidates you're looking for, you can specifically target these type of candidates by using people that are already working with you, letting them tell you about their day and what they do and what they aspire. That's an example that you could use. These blog posts, very important, should also be search engine optimized, meaning that if you post it, it will be indexed by the well-known search engines, and that people, when they start to Google about words or keywords, your blog will pop up. Of course, the SEO optimized, the more money you throw at it, the better it is. That's the way the business model is behind these search engine optimizations, but it is a way of getting your awareness raised. Also, these blog posts should have an author, and you must be like, yeah, well, obviously it has an author, yes, but it should be written like from a recruiter's point of view, or in these cases that you see right here, an employee's point of view, so that it has a personal touch. So it's not like we as bol.com write this blog. No, it's from a recruiter or a person that works there. Again, it contains a call to action. So like if you want to know more about P2's day or about Richard's day, please reach out or click on this link and you'll go to the recruitment or the careers page. Also important that these blogs have a social media share option. People often say that the people that are already working at your company are the greatest ambassadors. So if you give them some tools to show that, that they're proud, that they're happy to work at your company, this is a good opportunity to do so. So these blogs can be shared, and if people start to share them on their personal social media profiles, you're kind of creating a snowball effect. People start to share, these people start to share, these people read it, kind of follow up on that. And instead of a blog post, have you ever given some thought about a podcast or even a video podcast? Now that we're all home due to the Corona crisis, you see a lot of podcasts popping up, video podcasts about people sharing about a lot of different subjects. But you could also very well use this to create awareness of your employer brand. So let somebody talk about their job as a product designer. What do they do during the day? What makes them happy, etc., etc. So that's a really nice way to engage with your audience and create that awareness. Job boards, don't forget to mention those. That's a very important one as well, as there's still quite a few around today. Make sure that if you're present on a job board that you show some information about your organization. There's two examples right here on top of the screen. A Dutch example on Indeed. It's the Ministry of Defense, so the Army. If you want to work there, it tells you about, okay, what do we do? What can you do? As you can see, they have a brand with this Dutch flag emblem right there. You see that everywhere they post, that's always visible. So that's the consistency that they're using. And of course, Visma as a company themselves, they are present on fin.no, very well-known board in Norway. And this is the company page that Visma has there. So it has some general information about Visma, some blogs, some videos, just really showing the brand right there. So as you know, there's tons of job boards around. There's Monster, there's LinkedIn, Career Builder, Fin. I could just have an endless list. But yeah, if you use job boards as a medium to advertise and to create awareness, make sure that you have some information about your organization. Make sure that your company page contains photos, videos, reviews, and vacancies. More about those reviews later. And also make sure that you have branded banners and other branded materials. Some tips, so make sure that whatever pages you have on your career page that they're optimized for SEO. And there's also search engine advertising. That's what I mentioned, like you could also use some budget to actually advertise so people are really specifically targeted, a group of candidates. And again, if you have a clear idea of your candidate persona, you also know who to target. So that's search engine advertising, but there's also a display campaign, which means that if you, I don't know, if you shop on a website, sometimes you see certain banners coming by. That's also a display campaign. It just creates more online visibility. And again, at the bottom, use a social media campaign. And there's different channels. Like we all know, we have Snapchat, we have TikTok, we have Instagram, Facebook. Please be aware of those different channels and also be aware that it's different audiences that are present on those channels. I just recently created a TikTok account and I'm just still trying to figure my way on how it works. So pretty soon you should see some TikTok videos from me on there. No, I'm not sure about that. But again, if you know your candidate persona, you know the candidate type. You often say that, you know, sometimes they say, oh, Instagram is more for millennials and this is a channel aimed more towards Generation Z. So if you know your candidate persona, you know on which channels you can advertise and target those candidates. Then we're slowly moving into phase 2. And Krista will soon take over from me on the next phases, but I'm just going to be here for a little bit longer. The consideration phase. So the candidate has seen your brand advertisement, has seen some blogs, some information about your company, and then is intrigued. So you basically have caught the attention of those potential candidates, and now is the time to convince them that you are the company that is their best employer. So what touch points can we identify in this consideration phase? So first of all, it's the reviews, our job board reviews, a LinkedIn profile, and some actual job advertisements. So what will that look like? About those reviews, yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? I just found this interesting review here as well. Unless you're desperate, stay away. Even then, be looking elsewhere. I'm not sure if that's a very nice review, but as it says, you cannot influence a review yourself. However, there are some things that you can do. So first of all is that you can ask rejected candidates about their recruitment experience instead of them instantaneously going, because basically what they're doing, they're venting their frustration or whatever happens during the process. If you ask them how they've experienced the process, they already have an opportunity to tell you like, well, it took really long that I heard anything or I haven't heard anything at all. Yeah, I was addressed in a not so nice way, or whatever they have done. Ask about that, then you get to know a little bit better, and that gives you an opportunity to fix that, and the candidate feels they're heard. And that's the most important thing. If you don't feel heard, not hurt but heard, then you go to other places to vent that frustration. And as well as you ask rejected candidates about their experience, you can do the same thing with your new hires. So if somebody has just been hired, just ask them, so how did you experience the selection process? And then maybe they have a tip or two, or maybe they're really happy with what you've done. Another opportunity to get some review. And the same thing with your current employees, even if they have been with you for a long time, and hopefully they're happy to work with you, otherwise they would not have been there a long time, ask them to write a review about your company. They can also help, if you have platforms like Glassdoor, there's a lot of current employees that are writing a review about that. So if you have people that are really happy that are working with you, just ask them to write a review. And let's go over to the LinkedIn profile. That's basically when people start to search a little bit more about your company. That's when they go to LinkedIn. I've pulled up the LinkedIn company profile of Air Baltic, my favorite airline. Visma has an office in Riga, and Krista and I go there a lot to meet with our developers. So always flying Air Baltic. So I always like their way of working. So this company profile page on LinkedIn that you see right here, make sure that it is maintained actively. I was browsing on LinkedIn and I went to the, was it SAS, Scandinavian Airlines LinkedIn page, and I saw they still had a video up that said, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Yeah. To make sure that it's maintained actively, that you continuously add new content. Make sure that it has a representative banner. Here's some of the core values of Air Baltic. We deliver, we care, we grow. That's what's important to them. So that's a nice banner on their page. Make sure that the profile is completed. That helps people that read through it, just getting more and more information about you as a company. As I mentioned, maintained actively, which also implies, make sure that it's being updated on a regularly basis. If whatever new employees have joined, highlight that and also celebrate successes. Like you see on Air Baltic there, they received the Fleet Award, Youngest Fleet Award. That's something to celebrate. That's something to share. It also tells people what you do as a company, what's happening right there. And as most people would have understood by now, I think that this whole LinkedIn profile page is also an important part of your employee branding strategy. And then the job advertisement, and here I'm not specifically talking, it's a little bit, you see it sometimes you don't. A specific job, it's more, a general advertisement. What you see right here. So there's two examples, one very concrete one. We're looking for a junior software developer. Has the basic information, and what I said in the bullet points, it contains job value proposition. So what is unique about the job, and the employee value proposition. What do we have to offer? Make sure that it's brief, clear, and to the point, and also that it contains a call to action. As you can see on the we're hiring example at the bottom, like send your CV to this email address. And then on the right side of the screen, we are looking for an marketing manager. And this is an advertisement done by Burger King. I just love this advertisement because it says, don't mention the M. And we all know who these golden arches are, don't we? So this is their advertisement, to the point as well, and also with a call for action. So those are just some examples which you can express yourself. And again, as I said in the very beginning, do you want to be quirky or do you want to be serious? That's entirely up to you, what you feel comfortable with as a company on your employer brand. And then basically we get to phase 3, and now I'll finally give the word to Krista.
Thank you. So the journey continues with phase 3. So that is the interest phase. So now the potential candidate has a specific preference for your organization as a future employer. So some touch points here is the careers page and the vacancies on that. So if we move to the next slide. So what makes a good career page? So I guess all attendees in this meeting have some kind of career page. Either you have a dedicated career page that is on a separate web page, or you have a career page on your normal web page. So you click available jobs and then you get to the careers page. But here are some tips for you what actually makes a good career page. So the first one is always try to use a clear URL. And what we are trying to say with a clear URL is that it is easy to for example, communicate the URL to your careers page. So for example, yourcompanyname.com/jobs, or for example, work@ourcompany.com or something similar. So then it's easy for you to communicate it to candidates, both in, for example, on a YouTube video, or as Lex have shown, some different advertisements and so on. It's always easy to refer the candidate to your careers page. Also make it really easy to find your different vacancies on your career page. So don't start with having a career page that is all about like, we are a great company and we wish to tell you all about it. Of course, it is a nice thing to do, but I would say that a careers page should mainly focus on your vacancies, like, welcome to our careers page, click here to find our vacancies, because that is what a careers page is all about. Always provide honest information. Don't lie. Don't try to tell a story that isn't true. Always be honest and try to, how should I say, be special from the other competitors or companies. Like, why is this company better than the other company? Maybe we are really caring about the environment, for example, or we are really caring about, for example, your work private life. Like in our company, it is really important for us that you have a private life and you have a work life, and there is a clear difference between those two lives, so to speak. As Lex have been talking about, let employees tell their story. For example, let Lex talk about why is it so good to work at Visma, for example. Then it is more honest and more like, okay, Lex really enjoys working at Visma, then I would also like to apply to that company because I know Lex, or I have seen him on a webinar. He sounds like a trustworthy person, so to speak. Also try to use your own images. So for example, as you can see on the right side here on this slide, you have a picture of two people. Always try to use your own images. So for example, a picture of your employees, or a picture of your office, or something similar, because then when the candidate starts to work at a company, then they recognize people like, oh, you were the one in that vacancy. That was pretty cool to see you for real, so to speak. Same thing goes with videos, for example. Try to reuse your employees. Let them be the face outwards to your candidates. Easy findability. What we're trying to say with easy findability is that your careers page are search engine optimized. So if you go to a well-known search engine, then it is easy to find your careers page. So if you type something like jobs, Air Baltic or something like that, then it's easy to find the careers page. Of course, we maybe don't need to mention this one, but of course you should make sure that sorry about that. You should make sure that your careers page is mobile friendly. That is like a basic thing nowadays. Of course, your careers page should be mobile friendly. Your careers page should also be easy to navigate. And what we're trying to say with easy to navigate means that you should have logic buttons, logic text, like click here to go to our vacancies, or click here to read about our company, click here to hear what our employees have to say, and so on. So it should be easy and logic to navigate on your careers page. And finally, your careers page should be in line with the branding. So not only the rest of your web page, but also when you post information on blogs, social medias, and so on, you should try to have a red line all the way, so you recognize the banners, the logos, the text, fonts, colors, and so on. So you can navigate to the next page, Lex. And here we have a really good example for you. So this example is for Nordic Choice Hotels. And the first thing, as I said on the previous slide, try to use a simple URL. And as you could see on the URL, it was jobs.nordicchoicehotels.com. really easy to remember, really easy to communicate. So this is not a client using any of Visma's recruitment tools, but I wish to show this careers page because I find it really, how should I say, really attractive, really nice careers page. So the first thing we see on this page is a real nice picture. We have a logo. Great talent can come from anywhere. Really really good welcome message, so to speak. In the top right corner, we have links to social media, so I can go on to Nordic Choice Hotels LinkedIn profile, Facebook page, and so on. And as I said on the previous page, make it easy to find your different vacancies. So if you click on the button Explore Jobs, Lex, then you are taken directly to the different vacancies. And here you can search on job categories, locations, and countries. So it is really easy to find the different vacancies on this career page. I really love that. But if you go up again, Lex, there is something else I wish to show you on this careers page. So, you were a bit too fast here. So if you scroll down to the different people, what I'm trying to point on here is let your employees tell the story. So here we have Marta, we have Lena, we have Petter Stordalen. I guess everyone knows who he is. But if I click on Lena, for example, then I can read about Lena Solheim, why she loves working as a receptionist, why do she enjoy working at Nordic Choice Hotels. I think this is really good, not too much text. It is really down to the basics, so to speak. If we continue down, then I also told you to try to be honest and try to tell a good story, so to speak. So if you continue down, Lex, then we have this one here. Nordic Choice Hotels is really caring about the environment. So if you click on Explore Our World, then you will get this awesome interactive world map. So you can scroll, you can click on the different countries and find out what Nordic Choice Hotels are doing in the different countries. So here we have, for example, for Oslo, we have for Africa, we have for the Baltic countries and so on. I think this is really, really nice because then the candidates is really like, oh, they are really into environment. This is on spot what I also believe in, so to speak.
Yeah, I know the text is really small, but it says we support UNICEF in its efforts to protect children exposed to human trafficking. So that's one of the things they do.
Correct. So if you close this one, Alex, and let's go to a vacancy. So if you click on front desk guest service, for example, here we have a really good vacancy. So it's clear where the job is located, Västra Götaland, Sweden. When is the application deadline? We have a short introduction about the hotel. We have clear headings about the job, what we what experience you should have, what we offer, and then in the bottom of the vacancy, we have a really simple way to apply to the vacancy. So you have the application form directly in the vacancy. Another thing that I really enjoy with this careers page is this one, similar jobs. So let's say that I clicked on that vacancy, and then when I read the vacancy text, it's like, maybe not, maybe this vacancy is maybe not for me. Then I can click on similar jobs, and then I can see, oh, welcome office agent. Okay, that sounds interesting. What is this vacancy all about? So you have like a connection between the different vacancies, so you don't need to go back and forward and scroll up and down. You can stay in the vacancy and navigate to different vacancies. That is really, really awesome. So if you go back to the presentation, Lex, and continue to the next slide, then we are talking about the vacancy. So the vacancy page should, you should have understandable job titles. And on the next slide, I will show you some kind of fun examples how you can pronounce a job title, or how you can, how should I say, change a job title. There are some really nice examples. So an understandable job title, so something like key account manager, a controller, or whatever you're looking for. So it should be clear what you are looking for. The job title should be logic and understandable. Required and desirable skills, clearly separated. So what we require and what is, how should I say, nice to have. there should be a clear difference between those two parts, or how to say, so the candidate really understands that, okay, I need to have these experiences, and these experiences are nice to have. So it should be a clear difference between those two parts. Use headings to break up text. So don't have like a wall of text, have headings, so it's easy to navigate in the vacancy and easy to see here the experience part ends here, and now the desirable experience starts here, so to speak.
Just to add to that, Krister, what you also see nowadays coming up more and more is that instead of text, there's bare minimum of text, but instead of that, they're using a whole video that's basically is recorded and describes the job. So also, again, to make this personal connection, it's people that are actually working there telling them about the job, what you'll be doing. This is your colleagues. This is the department where you'll be working. This is what it looks like. I'll make sure that in the slide deck, once we send it out, I'll include a link for a nice example so you can get some inspiration from that.
Also, it should be really clear who to contact if you have any questions. So if I have a question about the salary or the work location and so on, it should be easy for me to find who to contact, email, mobile phone number, and so on. In the end of the vacancy, you could have a graphical example informing about the selection process. So for example, you have step 1, apply to the vacancy. Step 2, the selection process will start. Step 3, we will get back to you. So the candidate is informed before they apply to the vacancy, what will happen when I send my application, when can I expect feedback from this company, and so on. Also make sure to have social share options. Lex was mentioning this, but I think this is also really important to use in your vacancies. So for example, let's say that I find a vacancy as a key account manager, maybe not the best vacancy for me, but I wish to share it on my social media platforms. I can share it easily by just clicking a button and share the vacancy on LinkedIn and on Facebook, for example.
Yeah, and with these blog posts, that's mentioned earlier, it's also here with the vacancies, your employees are your ambassadors. So if you enthuse them, like, okay, every Friday just share 1 or 2 jobs on your social media profiles, that's free advertising, and it also generates that snowball effect. More and more people will see it.
And the final thing, and I guess you can see what we have tried to show here, does not contain spelling errors. So always try to make sure that you are spelling correct in the vacancy. So next slide, please, Lex. So about those job titles, as I mentioned in the previous slide, try to use logic and clear job titles. So for example, if you're looking for a bartender, don't try to make it like super cool to say something like beverage dissemination officer. For me, that is like, okay, what are we trying to say here? That is actually a bartender. And these are real examples that we have found from job advertisements. So this is nothing that we have just invented, or how to say, this is actual real job titles. Another great example here is retail Jedi. Of course, I know what a Jedi is because I'm a Star Wars fan, but if you have never heard about Star Wars, then it is like retail Jedi. What is that? Is that like a pet, or is it, what is a Jedi, and so on?
Should we do a poll, Krister, who's never heard of Star Wars?
Exactly. No. Exactly. So what I'm trying to say here is be clear, be logic in your job titles, because in many cases, you saw it on the Nordic Choice Hotels example, the job title is the first thing that the candidate will see. That is the job title that the candidate clicks on to be able to open the vacancy. And if you type some weird thing like beverage dissemination officer, then it's like, what is this? I don't dare to click on this link. So try to be clear and logic with your job titles. So next slide, please, Lex. So then we have the application phase. So now the candidate have decided to respond to your vacancy and enters the application process. So now it's time to apply to the vacancy. And touch points here is the actual application form and the email communication. So let's have a look on the application process. So the application form, always try or consider to use a so-called one-pager application form. And what we're trying to say with our one-pager is try to have all questions on one page. So you start with first name or personal details, then maybe attach a CV, and then send application. As you can see here on the right-hand side, 2 examples here. You have one page with all questions. It is easy to get an overview. How many questions do I need to answer? I fill in the answers and then send application. This is also really important to think about when we're talking about mobile friendliness. So if you're using a phone, a pretty small screen, then please always make sure that you're using a one-pager, because then it's easy to get an overview on your screen. Otherwise, if you have your application form split up to different pages, it will be like next, okay, fill the information, next, fill the information, and candidates will drop off because they feel, okay, there is no end to this application process. There is just a new page all the time. So always consider to use a one-pager. Always ask relevant questions. So don't ask about a driver license if that is not needed for the vacancy. So a relevant question would be like, for example, let's say that I would like to apply to a vacancy as a receptionist or a chef or something like that. Then use a relevant question like, how long experience do you have within working as a receptionist, for example? Don't ask questions like, do you know C# or Perl, so programming languages, because that is not relevant for the vacancy. Speaking about questions, always use logical and understandable questions. And this is particularly important when you're using screening questions. So when the recruitment tool is screening the candidates, depending on what they answered. So a logical and understandable question would be something like, let's say that to be able to work as a receptionist, you need to be 18 years old, at least, for example. Then you could have a question like, are you 18 years old? Yes, no. And then candidates could be confused and like, okay, I'm 17 right now, but I will be 18 in December, but I will click no, and then you're screened. So a better example here would be to say something like, will you be 18 years old on the 1st of June, 2021? Because then it's easier for the candidate to understand what you're trying to ask, and I can make a decision. Yes, I will be 18 years old from the 1st of June 2021, for example. Video questions, that is a quite new thing. So instead of having just text-based questions and answers, then you can ask the candidate to upload a video. So for example, you can ask a question like, please tell us in 1 minute why you would like to work in our company. And then the candidate can record a video and say, hi, my name is Christer. I would like at Visma because I really like your company. It seems to be a cool young company. I would like to apply, or similar. Keep the same layout. So from the careers page to the vacancy to the application form, use the same layout. So you have a red line between the different touch points, and also mobile friendly, of course.
Now, speaking about that mobile, Christer, we're talking about the actual application form, but you also see things like chatbots that are being used. So a chatbot, if that's suitable for the type of candidate, your candidate persona that you're aiming for, a chatbot might also be a nice way to let candidates apply. Technologically, that's all possible. So you don't have to use an application form per se.
Correct. Yeah. Yes, so next page, please. So this is about the emails. So when communicating with the candidate, so for example, thanks for application or invitation to interview or whatever the email could be, then always use the same tone of voice for outgoing emails. And what I'm trying to say with tone of voice is that you're using the same language in the text as you used in your vacancies. So if you're like a young company, maybe a startup company, like we are looking for young professionals, we are really cool, peace out, and so on, then try to use the same language in your emails. So the vacancy is really cool and like sketchy, or how to say, and then the email would be like, dear Lex, thank you so much for your application. Then you have a mismatch between the communication. So try to use the same tone of voice in your outgoing emails. Make it clear what the email is all about. So for example, in the subject, that is usually the first thing that you see when you receive an email. You see the subject. Make it clear what the email is all about. So for example, have a subject like your application in company XYZ, for example. So the candidate can quickly understand, okay, this email is about that application that I did 10 minutes ago, for example, or this email is about an invitation to an interview for that company that I applied to 2 weeks ago. Same thing again, keep the same layout. So as you can see here on this example to the right, we are using the same banner and Visma logo and so on as we used in the application form. So try to keep the same layout so you keep the red line. Always use your company domain in outgoing emails so that the sender address for the email is your company name at yourdomain.com. So it's easy for the candidate to understand which client or which company is this email from. Because the worst thing you could do, or not the worst thing, but a bad thing would be if the email said no reply at something.com, and you're like, what is this kind of domain? So always try to use your company's domain. So for example, in our example, it would be application@visma.com or recruitment@visma.com or something similar.
Yeah. And if for whatever reason you can't, then just make sure that you mention it to the candidates before they apply so that they're aware.
Correct. And the final thing here, don't use delays. So in some recruitment tools, you can insert a delay. So for example, for the email application received, then you can insert a delay that send this email 2 days after the candidate have applied. Don't use delays with that one. Send the email directly, because candidates today are on the move. They wish to have information directly. So send the email directly to the candidate like, yes, we have registered your application. Everything is done. Now you just have to sit down, relax, and wait for feedback from us. So the next slide, please, Lex. So then we have phase 5, so the selection phase. So the candidate has applied and will now go through the selection process. So in this phase, we're going to have a look on the following touch points, so email and video. So next slide, please. So the selection process, either work with your candidates directly after they have applied or wait until the application deadline has passed. But depending on what you select here, either if you work with your candidates directly or you wait to after the application deadline, then make sure that you communicate this with a candidate in the application process, for example, that we will get back to you after the application deadline. So the candidate are aware of this, so they don't start to call you and like, what is happening with my application? So inform the candidate prior to they apply what's going to happen and when can you expect feedback from us. Make sure to update your candidates, so communicate with your candidates, for example, send an SMS message or, for example, type something to their social media, so for example, WhatsApp or Messenger or similar, but keep the candidate updated. What is happening? We will get back to you. The process is taking more time than expected and so on, but update the candidate so they are aware of what is happening. Also keep your recruitment system updated with notes, for example, and current and next steps. So this is a really good thing if, for example, a candidate contacts you and say, okay, what is happening with my application? When will I get some feedback from you? Then it's really good if your recruitment system is updated with, for example, a note like, I will call the candidate next week or something like that, because then the recruitment tool can help you and really make sure that you are on top of things and like, yep, dear candidate, I will get back to you tomorrow, for example, or the next step is this or something similar. And then, if possible, work with digital reference checks, assessment providers, and videos. And speaking about videos, this is something that is actually quite cool to use. So what you can do is that when the candidates have applied to a vacancy, then you can send different kind of video questions to the candidates, like, thank you for your application. We have selected you, dear candidate, to go on in the process. So I have a question for you. Why are you applying for this position? Or please tell us about your former experience or something like that. And the idea is that you as a recruiter is recording your question as a video, and then the candidate answer the question by recording a video. So the question is a video and the answer is a video of the candidate. So then you will have like a mini web interview, or how to say, but it is a video. So that is actually quite fun to use videos for your questions. So next example. So as you have seen here in the presentation, I am saying always inform the candidate what is happening, always inform about the process. So here are an example. So here you have the process. So apply, assess, phone screen, interview, test, and offer. So the idea here is that this image should be visible on the client's homepage. So when the candidate arrives on the client's homepage or career page, then you should see these examples like, okay, so I apply, then there will be a CV screening, then a test, first, second interview, and then hopefully I will join the company. So this is just some examples how you can show the candidate journey for the candidates when they apply to a vacancy. So yeah, over to you, Lex.
Yes, I was just glancing at the time, and time flies by when you're having fun. That's what they always say. And of course, Chris and I made some preparations, and then we stayed right within the time. So I'm trying to speed it up a little bit, but we may go a little bit over time. I hope that's okay with you, that you have the time to still stay with us. The funnel is narrowing down. We're almost coming to the final stage, and the final stage is actually the hire or no hire stage. So the candidate has gone through the selection process, and a decision has been made whether or not to hire the candidate. There's two touch points that we would like to highlight here. It's the email automation and the welcome package, and another one which you can see right here about those non-hired candidates. I think it's very important that you should build a relationship with those non-hired candidates, because I believe that even though this candidate isn't the right one today, still maybe tomorrow this candidate may be a suitable candidate or even a top candidate. So this whole rejection process, and let's face it, no one likes to receive a rejection of any kind. It's just natural for humans. However, if you receive a rejection, I think that one should be candid about the rejection reason. So don't say, we decided to hire an internal candidate, because then I would be like, sure you did. So be candid. So give a good reason. If you take the candidate that you did hire in mind, you should be able to come up with some reasons why you didn't hire somebody else. Also make sure that if the candidates may still be suitable in the future, that you connect through LinkedIn, so establish that personal connection. And you can also decide to stay in touch through these newsletters and social media. So this is where this marketing automation comes in. And I don't know if your company organizes events of any kind, you may consider inviting these candidates or these rejected candidates to those events, just to stay in touch and build up your base. So this candidate relationship management, you could use some talent pooling. So in some ATS systems offer the possibility to create talent pools. And with these talent pools, you can send targeted email messages to these candidates in the pools. And that's where you can use email automation, so you don't have to type one single email for every candidate. You can do this in bulk using smart tags in emails. You can tailor the email to the candidate or the type of expertise this person has. And it can also be used as an additional sourcing channel. So you're staying in touch with them, but make sure that if you stay in touch, it's not once a year, but that it's a regular contact. So come up with information that you can share to engage with them. So as I mentioned, it contains some personalization, and also don't forget to mention the job alerts. I know it's a passive function, but it's an active function for the candidate, so to say. A candidate could sign up. So if in your rejection email, you could, for instance, mention the reasons, of course, why the candidate was rejected, and then you can highlight, okay, perhaps it's good if you sign up for a job alert, then you'll instantly receive a message if we have a new position available that's suitable for you. It's also a nice way to stay in touch with the candidate. This welcome package, and in this case, I'm referring to an actual physical welcoming package. If the candidate is hired, it's always nice. It's something to celebrate. The candidate most likely will be very happy that he or she is hired. And this welcome package can really add to this experience. So usually then it would consist of some items that are branded by a company. Here you see some nice examples of some companies, like literally saying, welcome to the team. Another company is highlighting their core values on a little card, just some items that people can use that are branded that they can show off or use on their desk. And also, especially now with the whole COVID situation, we all work from home, or most people work from home, and lots of people still change jobs and they still start a new job. So a package like this, instead of going to an office, may make a candidate feel right at home at your company. So consider that welcome package. It doesn't have to be hugely expensive or a huge, large package. It could be small things too that can make a difference in this case. Then we kind of go to the onboarding phase. So in the onboarding phase, we have the actual onboarding plan and the social media as a touch point. This onboarding plan, what does that look like? The minutes basically you sign the contract, the onboarding or pre-boarding, whatever terminology people use for that, has already started, because the candidate will sign a contract and then usually some time is passing until they start their first day. Make sure that it starts right away, so that you share some information and that it's also consistent for the new hire, so everybody gets the same welcoming experience, top to bottom. If it's a manager, or if it's a receptionist or a custodian, that they all get the same experience. This onboarding plan should contain some practical information, like really practical information. Where can I park my car in the Netherlands? Where can I park my bike? Very important. What cafeterias do we have? How do you pay for things? So that's a very practical, hands-on thing that people are always a little bit insecure about that on their first day. This onboarding, should be mobile and automated, so then the same for consistency purposes and to keep a constant interaction with the new hire. There's plenty of tools out for that. You can see a screenshot right there that you can create an actual onboarding journey, which consists of perhaps some training to get the job started, facilitating, like, you need to have a laptop or you need to have a phone, from very practical and training things. It also should be having room for feedback, so that you can have an interaction. So a manager, your future manager, could ask you, how are you getting along and how's it going? That there's an interaction, that the candidate or the new hire could give you some feedback during that phase. So there's a lot of different tools out to facilitate this. And then when it comes to social media, when we have a new hire, a good social media post, you should actually celebrate this new hire. It also shows off nice on your LinkedIn profile or your other social media profiles that you're active. It's a reason to celebrate. As I mentioned, the new hire will probably be happy and be like, yes, I'm happy to start a new job. They would probably share it themselves. Why not share it as a company as well as a new hire? And of course, you see some very happy people, very casual. Share it in a way that is suitable for your employer brand. So if you're a little bit more formal, you don't have to go all crazy with confetti and balloons. It's entirely up to you how you wish to do that. So where were we? So optimizing this candidate experience. So we've gone through very many different phases of the candidate journey, but where do we start with optimizing this? Well, as a very famous quote, it's actually a song that says, just start at the very beginning. That's a very good place to start. So start with, first of all, validating your employer brand. Do we have a clear employer brand? Is that clear to everyone? Do we all understand what we are as a company? That's the basis of anything you start to build when it comes to the candidate experience and the candidate journey. So all these interactions that we've talked about will relate back to that. Take some time, we all aware of these brown paper sessions, and you can do this very well digitally as well. Literally start to map out your candidate journey. So, you could use our presentation as a handy tool for that. So we've mapped out all the phases and the different touch points. So take some time to analyze those touch points. What do we already have? What does it look like? And perhaps, because it's a very big task, and you could start by creating small tasks. So are there any quick wins that you can pick up immediately? Like, for instance, an email that is being sent out. That's something that you can easily fix. and then you slowly start to creating the actions that you have coming up with the action list. And then you can also plan for a follow-up. And of course, you could say, well, let's throw bags and bags of money at this, and then we're sure to have a good employer brand, or let's hire an agency that can help us with that. There's a lot of different options that you can do, but you can also start at the very beginning in a very simple way with what you already have. You have more than you think. You have emails, you have interactions with candidates. Just make sure that you take a look at that and see if it actually is what you want to be, what you want to tell candidates. So some tools that can help you. Let it be very clear, there is not one single tool in the market that can do all of this that we've talked about in this webinar. So, but what we did do for you is we've listed some tools that you could take into consideration to help you during this phase. Of course, there's two obvious tools, which is Visma Recruit and Visma EasyCruit. Those are our own products, so of course we're going to highlight that to you. But in addition to that, there's also other tools that you could use. So to facilitate this onboarding journey, for instance, Visma has a partnership with Apical, so you could have this whole digital mobile experience for your onboarding journey with Apical. And we also mentioned this chatbot that you could use to apply, for instance, if that's suitable with your audience, and you don't want to push it on everybody. It's a very specific group that wants to use that. That's Jaboti. That's also a partner that you could use. Some other ones you wish to highlight, Krister?
Yeah, I would like to highlight two tools here. So the first one is Grammarly. So I was talking about make sure that you're not doing any spelling mistakes in your vacancies, for example. Then I would recommend Grammarly. It is a third-party solution that you add to your browser, and Grammarly makes it easy for you to spell in the correct way. So when you start to type something and you misspell, then Grammarly can come up with like, hey, you have done a spelling mistake here. Should I correct it for you? So Grammarly is really easy to use, and it's not like in your way, or how to say, it's only like your assistant, like, hey, you misspelled this, should I correct it for you? And also pixels. I was talking about use your own images. So for example, pictures of your employees or pictures of your office or something like that. With pixels, you are able to download and browse, I think it is millions of pictures and videos that are free for you to use. So if you don't have the budget to hire a good photographer or something like that, you don't have a fancy camera or something like that, then I would recommend Pexels, because here we'll find really, really high resolution pictures. So that is neutral. Someone is like typing on a computer, some nice background picture, some office pictures, and so on. And everything is free to use. So Pexels is something I would recommend to use for
images. And to add
images.
to that, Krister, I heard an example of one client that, there were some challenges with the budget because they weren't able to just do a full-on professional photography. So they were looking to they reached out to a school of photography, and together with the school, they kind of came up with a graduation project where some students would set up a photography of people and enhancing an employer brand. So that was a really nice partnership that this client did, and they got some really good photo material from their own employees out of it. So there's a lot of creative ways that you can facilitate that. So like I said, you can throw a huge bag of money at it, but that's usually not the case. So you have to find creative ways, and there may be, right next to your office building, there may be a school that could help you with things like that. So that's something that's really useful to do. All right. To come back to what Jackie McGuire said at the beginning, it's important to have this integrated approach to the candidate journey, and that will improve your organization's brand, attract better quality hires, and increase the return on investment. So I hope that with us going through the different phases and seeing how many different touch points you have during these phases, that you take in mind that whatever you decide to do on these actions, whether they're big or small, make sure that they all are aligned together. So you have this integrated approach, that it's a consistent branded candidate journey, so that it's a very clear message to candidates. And that basically brings us to the end of the webinar. I was just trying to check on my screen if I saw any questions and answers. I didn't see any questions. I did see a question, that quick video questions, Christian, that you showed. What tool was used for that?
Sorry, for which one?
Yeah, the one where the employer sent a video question and you can answer the video question. What tool is that?
Yes, we are using, we have a partnership with a company called RecWrite for that one. So that is a tool called RecWrite.
All right.
That is built into our recruitment tool, Visma Recruit.
All right, that sounds good. I don't see any other questions in the questionnaire box. Let me just double check that I'm not missing anything. No, I don't see anything here. So if you go to sleep tonight and you wake up in the middle of the night in the sweats and say, how about this? Please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to do that. And that basically brings me to the very end of this webinar. So on behalf of Visma Talent Solutions, on behalf of myself and Krister, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today in our webinar. We hope that you found it informative and that it makes you have to take a look at your branding and your candidate journey, seeing how you could optimize that. Please feel free to join us again. We have some additional webinars planned for this year. The first one that's coming up in April, and the actual date is still to be announced. I know it's short term, but we'll make sure you'll be notified of that, is a webinar about employee engagement. So basically, when people are hired, how do we keep our employees engaged? On September 23rd, after we've all hopefully enjoyed a summer holiday in which we are allowed to travel a little bit when we're well rested, we have the webinar about data-driven recruitment. So how can you use data as a driver for making your recruitment decisions? And on December 9th, we are going to look at diversity and inclusion, which is definitely more than just a hype. Thank you very much for joining us today. Have a lovely day, and we hope to see you again soon.
Did you know that about 1/3 of your life is spent at work? We want to see you make the most of it and experience a sense of purpose every workday. We want to help you match with the best employer for you and enable a delightful onboarding to your future workplace where continuous coaching and feedback is the norm. We want to see you design and lead your own career path, enabling you to develop, learn, and work as you envision. Visma Talent Solutions is your people technology partner through every step of your employee journey. Visit our webpage to learn more.